Your new boyfriend? Count how much he stole. And from whom.
The text message that destroyed my life came at 2:47 a.m. while I was delivering Chinese food to a drunk college kid who tipped me in pocket lint and apologies. We need to talk. It's over, Nick. I'm sorry. Misunderstand, my fiancée of 3 years. The woman I'd worked 70-hour weeks to put through law school, surviving on ramen noodles and broken dreams while she studied corporate law at Georgetown. The woman who promised we'd build something together once she passed the bar. I sat in my beat-up Honda Civic, engine ticking in the silence, staring at those words until they burned into my retinas. The smell of General Tso's chicken from my passenger seat made my stomach turn. 3 jobs. I worked 3 stinking jobs. Morning shift at the warehouse, afternoons doing handyman work, nights delivering food. Also, Emma Renner could become the hotshot attorney she'd always dreamed of being. And now, 2 weeks after she passed the bar exam, she was dumping me via text message like some high school romance. I drove home to our cramped apartment in Riverside Heights, the kind of place where the radiator sounds like a dying walrus, and the neighbors upstairs practice interpretive dance at midnight. Emma was waiting, sitting on our secondhand couch with her arms crossed, still wearing her expensive new suit from Morrison, Bishop & Associates. Really? I said, dropping my delivery bag by the door. A text message? Jamaica. She had the decency to look ashamed for about half a second. Nick, I know this seems sudden. Salt? I laughed, the sound bitter in my throat. Emma, I've been busting my tail for 3 years so you could chase your dreams. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner so you could afford your bar exam prep course. And now it's sudden? Unmarried. That's exactly the problem. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Even now, even while destroying my world, she looked polished. Perfect. Nick, I need someone who can match my ambitions. Someone on my level. Your level. I repeated the words slowly, tasting their poison. What level is that exactly? The level where you forget the people who sacrificed everything for you? Unleashed. Her green eyes flashed with irritation. Don't be dramatic. You knew this was temporary. I mean, look at us. Look at this place. She gestured around our apartment like it was contaminated. I'm going to be making 6 figures within 2 years. I'll be dining with judges and senators. What are you going to be doing, Nick? Delivering egg rolls? The words hit like a physical blow. I'd known Emma was ambitious, but I'd never seen this side of her. Cold, calculating, ruthless. This wasn't the woman who used to fall asleep in my arms while I helped her study contract law. I see. I sat down heavily in my recliner, the one piece of furniture I'd owned before we moved in together. So what's his name? Assaulting. What? Come on, Emma. You don't dump someone after 3 years unless there's someone else waiting in the wings, someone on your level. Suppressing her silence was answer enough. It's your boss, isn't it? Sean Bishop. The less after her cheeks confirmed it. Sean Bishop, 42 years old, silver-haired, married, and the kind of man who wore $1,000 suits and drove a Porsche. Everything I wasn't. Sean understands my career goals, she said defensively. He's been mentoring me. Shirts. Is that what we're calling it now? Sentenced. Don't be crude, Nick. This isn't about Sean. This is about us growing apart. We want different things. Rejection. Schlack, I stood up, anger finally overriding the shock. No, Emma, you want different things. I want the same thing I've always wanted, to build a life with the woman I love. But apparently, love doesn't pay well enough for your taste. Oliver, she grabbed her purse, a designer bag I'd saved up 3 months to buy her for Christmas. I'll come back for my things tomorrow while you're at work. Misunderstanding. How thoughtful of you. Chever, at the door she paused. For a moment I thought she might apologize, might show some trace of the woman I'd fallen for. Instead she said, I hope someday you'll understand. I'm doing this for both of us. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with the smell of Chinese food and the wreckage of my faith in human decency. I called in sick to all 3 jobs the next day and spent it drinking beer and staring at the ceiling, wondering where exactly I'd gone wrong. Had I been too supportive? Too trusting? Too poor? My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Emma's friends, Tessa and Jordan, who'd apparently heard the news. Their messages were variations on the same theme. So sorry to hear about you and Emma. Hope you're doing okay. Let us know if you need anything. Mish. Fake sympathy from fake people. I'd never liked Emma's law school crowd. They were the kind of people who measured worth in billable hours and networking opportunities. But Emma had insisted they were important for her career. So, I'd smiled and nodded through countless dinner parties where I was treated like the help. The worst part was how quickly the news spread. By the end of the week, everyone knew. The guys at the warehouse gave me pitying looks. My handyman clients asked awkward questions. Even Dante, my fellow delivery driver, and the closest thing I had to a best friend, didn't know what to say. "Man, I'm sorry," he said during our break outside Chen's Golden Dragon. "Emma always seemed, intense. But I thought you two were solid." So did I. I lit a cigarette, my first in 2 years. Turns out I was just the opening act, the warm-up before the main event. Championship. Her loss, bro. You're gonna bounce back from this. Manslaughter. I appreciated Dante's optimism, but bouncing back seemed impossible. At 35, I was starting over with nothing but debt and a broken heart. Emma had taken everything. Furniture, dishes, even the coffee maker I'd bought with my first warehouse paycheck. 2 weeks later, I was delivering dinner to the Westfield Manor, an upscale assisted living facility on the good side of town. The order was for Mrs. Wayland in apartment 4B. Sweet and sour pork, extra fortune cookies, and a Diet Coke. Mrs. Wayland was probably 80, with sharp blue eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She moved slowly but deliberately, like someone who'd learned to be careful with her body, but not her mind. "Nick Alvarez," she said, reading my name tag. "That's an interesting coincidence." "Ma'am? Your mother wouldn't happen to be Maria Alvarez, would she? Maria Santos before she married?" I nearly dropped the bag of food. "Yes, that was my mother. But she passed away 15 years ago. How did you—" "Oh, my dear boy." Mrs. Wayland's face softened. "Please come in. We have a great deal to discuss." Her apartment was small but elegant, filled with antique furniture and family photos. She gestured for me to sit on a velvet armchair while she settled across from me. "Your mother and I were very close friends," she began. "We worked together at Wayland Properties back in the 80s. She was my assistant, but more than that, she was like a daughter to me." I embarrassed my mother mentioning Mrs. Wayland, but only in passing. Mom had worked several jobs throughout my childhood, and I'd never paid much attention to the details. "Before she died," Mrs. Wayland continued, "Maria made me promise something. She made me promise that if anything ever happened to you, if you ever found yourself truly alone and struggling, I would help. Mrs. Wayland, I appreciate the sentiment, but let me finish, dear." She stood and walked to an antique desk, returning with a sealed envelope and a thick folder. "Your mother was a remarkable woman. She saved every penny she could, and she invested wisely. She also had a very good friend who happened to own a successful real estate company." She handed me the envelope. My name was written on it in my mother's familiar handwriting. "Go ahead," Mrs. Wayland urged. "Read it." With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. "My dearest Nick, if you're reading this, it means Mrs. Wayland has kept her promise, and you're in need of the help I always hoped you'd never require. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you about this arrangement while I was alive. I wanted you to make your own way in the world, to become the strong, independent man I knew you could be. But I also wanted to make sure you'd never be left with nothing. Mrs. Wayland and I have arranged for you to inherit my share in Wayland Properties, along with certain other assets I accumulated over the years. The conditions are simple. You must prove yourself worthy of this responsibility by demonstrating integrity, intelligence, and compassion. Mrs. Wayland will be the judge of your character. If she deems you ready, everything will be yours. If not, the assets will go to charity and you'll continue on your current path. I love you, son. I always believed you were destined for greatness. Your mother, Maria." Simmons. I read the letter 3 times before looking up at Mrs. Wayland, who was watching me with a knowing smile. "I don't understand," I said finally. "Your mother owned 30% of Wayland Properties when she died," Mrs. Wayland explained. "I've been managing her share as a silent partner for 15 years, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now." She opened the folder and showed me documents I couldn't fully comprehend. Property deeds, investment portfolios, bank statements with numbers that made my head spin. "Nick, your mother's share of the company is now worth approximately $12 million. The room tilted. I gripped the arms of the chair to keep from falling over. 12 million? That's just the beginning. I'm 83 years old and I have no children. I've been looking for someone to eventually take over the company. Someone with integrity. Someone who understands what it means to work hard and struggle." She leaned forward, her blue eyes intense. "I'm offering you a position as Executive Vice President of Wayland Properties, with the understanding that you'll inherit full control when I retire. Your mother's assets will be transferred to you immediately, but there's one condition." "What condition?" "You must prove that you can handle power responsibly, that you won't let money corrupt you or turn you into the kind of person who forgets where they came from." I thought about Emma, about her cold dismissal of our life together, about her hunger for status and wealth, about how quickly she'd abandon everything we'd built for a chance to climb the social ladder. "Mrs. Wayland, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Is this real? Because if this is some kind of elaborate prank or charity case, it's real, Nick. Your mother earned every penny of this, and she wanted it to go to you. The question is, what are you going to do with it?" I looked down at the documents, at numbers that represented more money than I'd ever dreamed of having. Then I looked at Mrs. Wayland, this elderly woman who'd kept a promise to my dead mother for 15 years. "I want to earn it," I said finally. "Whatever you need me to prove, whatever test you have in mind, I want to earn every dollar." Smiled, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. "That's exactly what your mother said you'd say." The irony was delicious. 2 days after Mrs. Wayland made me the second richest man in my zip code, Emma served me with divorce papers. We'd never actually gotten married, just engaged. But after 3 years of cohabitation, Virginia's common law marriage statute gave her certain rights to my assets. Rights she was now exercising with the enthusiasm of a shark smelling blood. I sat in the law offices of Hartwell and Associates, across from Emma and her attorney, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia Vance, who looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. Emma had chosen not to use anyone from Morris and Bishop and Associates, probably to avoid the awkward conflict of interest with her new boyfriend. "Mr. Alvarez," Patricia began, spreading documents across the mahogany table. "My client is seeking 50% of all assets acquired during the period of cohabitation, plus spousal support for a period of 3 years, to account for the career sacrifices she made during your relationship." Smoothing on my coffee. "Career sacrifices? I'm the one who worked 3 jobs so she could go to law school." Emma spoke for the first time since we'd sat down. "Nick, I gave up opportunities to stay in this relationship. I could have moved to New York, taken positions with more prestigious firms. But you stayed here to be with me," I interrupted. "How is that a sacrifice? I owe you money for." "Because I limited my earning potential to maintain our domestic partnership," Patricia answered smoothly. "Ms. Renner is now starting her career 3 years behind her peers. The spousal support would help level the playing field. My attorney, Robert Hartwell, was a gruff man in his 60s who'd handled blue-collar divorces for 30 years. He'd been recommended by Mrs. Wayland, and I was beginning to understand why. "Ms. Vance," he said dryly, "your client is a licensed attorney starting at one of the city's most prestigious firms. I hardly think she needs financial assistance from a delivery driver." She still thought I was broke, still thought she was trading up from poverty to prosperity. Mrs. Wayland and I had agreed to keep my new situation quiet until the divorce was finalized. "Furthermore," Robert continued, "Mr. Alvarez has recently come into some family assets that predate the relationship. Assets that would not be subject to division under Virginia law." Patricia's eyes sharpened. "What assets?" "That will be disclosed in due course. For now, Let's focus on the actual marital property, which, frankly, consists of some secondhand furniture and a 12-year-old Honda Civic. I watched Emma's face as the reality sank in. She'd been expecting a quick settlement, a nice chunk of change to start her new life. Instead, she was learning that our 3 years together had produced almost nothing of value. "There has to be more," she said, looking directly at me. "Nick, what aren't you telling me?" "I'm telling you the same thing you told me 2 weeks ago," I replied. "That we're over. The only difference is, I'm not trying to profit from it." The meeting ended with Patricia promising to investigate my finances, and Robert assuring me that everything was proceeding normally. Emma left without saying goodbye, her designer heels clicking angrily against the marble floor. But the real fun started 3 days later. I was in my new office at Wayland Properties, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city that still took my breath away, when my assistant buzzed at the intercom. "Mr. Alvarez, there's an Emma Renner here to see you. She says it's urgent." I send her in, walked into my office like she owned the place, then stopped dead when she saw the mahogany desk, the leather chairs, the oil paintings on the walls. Her mouth fell open as she took in the view, the obvious expense of everything around her. "What the heck is this, Nick?" "My office. I'm executive vice president of Wayland Properties now." "That's impossible. You were delivering Chinese food 3 days ago." "Actually, it was Thai food, but who's counting?" Sank into the chair across from my desk, her legal composure cracking. "How? How did this happen?" I told her about Mrs. Wayland, about my mother's hidden investments, about the inheritance I'd never known existed. I watched her face cycle through disbelief, anger, and finally, calculation. "So you were rich this whole time?" she asked. "No, Emma. I was poor this whole time. I became rich after you left me for someone on your level." She was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the city below. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, more like the woman I'd fallen in love with. "Nick, I made a mistake, a terrible mistake." "Yes, you did. I was scared of being trapped in poverty, scared of not living up to my potential. But I see now that I was wrong. We can fix this." Lifting back in my leather chair, studying her face. "Fix what exactly?" "Us, our relationship. We can get married properly this time, build something real together." "What about Sean?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Sean was a mistake, a rebound. I was confused and hurt, and I made bad decisions. But now I see clearly. Now you see $12 million. That's not fair, isn't it?" I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the street where I used to deliver food. "Emma, you looked me in the eye 3 weeks ago and told me I wasn't good enough for you. You said I'd never be anything more than a delivery driver. You left me for a man with money and status. I was wrong. No, you were honest. For the first time in our relationship, you told me exactly what you thought of me." She stood up, moving closer. "Nick, please. I love you. You love what I can give you now. There's a difference." "That's not true." "Then prove it. Walk away. Don't take a penny in the divorce settlement. Show me that this isn't about money." Her hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "I can't do that," she said finally. "I have student loans, expenses. You have a job at one of the city's best law firms. But I gave up 3 years. You gave up nothing, Emma. You got exactly what you wanted, a law degree and a rich boyfriend. The only thing you're upset about is that you chose the wrong rich guy." She tried a different approach, moving even closer, her voice dropping to the intimate tone she used to use in bed. "Nick, I know I hurt you. I know I was selfish and cruel. But we had something real. We can have it again." What we had was real for me. For you, it was apparently just a business arrangement. Her mask slipped then, revealing the cold ambition underneath. "Fine. You want to play hardball? My attorney is going to tear you apart in court. I'll get half of everything, including your precious inheritance." "Actually, you won't." "What?" I returned to my desk and pulled out a folder Robert had prepared. Virginia law is very clear about premarital assets. Since my mother's investments predated our relationship by 15 years, they're not subject to division. The only marital property we accumulated was the furniture you already took, And the car I'm keeping. There has to be something. There is something. My salary from Wayland Properties. You might be entitled to a portion of what I earn going forward, but not what I inherited. She grabbed the folder, scanning the documents with the speed of a trained attorney. I watched her face fall as she realized the truth. She was walking away from our relationship with almost nothing. This isn't over, she said, throwing the folder back on my desk. Yes, Emma, it is. After she left, I sat alone in my office, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The woman I'd loved was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. But for the first time since she'd left me, I felt like I was in control of my own destiny. Mrs. Wayland appeared in my doorway an hour later, moving slowly but purposefully. How did it go? She asked. About as well as you'd expect. She settled into the chair Emma had vacated, studying my face with those sharp blue eyes. Any regrets? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. I loved who I thought she was, but I don't think that person ever really existed. Your mother always said you were a good judge of character. My mother never met Emma. No, but she knew you. She knew you'd choose love over money every time. Mrs. Wayland smiled. That's why she trusted you with this inheritance. What if Emma keeps fighting? What if she finds some legal loophole? Then we'll deal with it. But Nick, she thought. Look at that. I want you to understand something important. This money, this company, it's not just about you anymore. Your mother built something here, something that matters. Wayland Properties owns affordable housing developments, community centers, small business spaces. We don't just make money, we make a difference. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Your real test isn't handling Emma's greed, it's deciding what kind of man you want to be now that you have power. I drove through my old neighborhood, past the apartment Emma and I had shared, past the restaurants where I'd delivered food, past the warehouse where I'd worked morning shifts for 3 years. Everything looked smaller somehow, like I was seeing it from a great distance. My phone buzzed with a text from Dante. Heard through the grapevine that you hit the lottery or something. True? I smiled and typed back, something like that. Want to grab a beer and I'll explain? Heck yes, but you're buying. Deal. Some things, I realized, were worth keeping, and some people were worth fighting for. Emma had shown me which category she belonged in, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I was grateful for the lesson. The war began in earnest 2 weeks later, when Emma and her friends decided to destroy my reputation. It started with whispers at Morrison Bishop and Associates. Tessa Morrison. Yes, that Morrison, as in the name on the letterhead and daughter of the founding partner, began spreading rumors that I'd somehow tricked or manipulated Mrs. Wayland into giving me money. According to Tessa's version, I was a con artist who preyed on elderly women. Jordan Walsh, Emma's other close friend from law school, took a different approach. She started telling people that I'd been hiding assets during our entire relationship, that I'd been lying to Emma for years while secretly building wealth. Both stories were BS, but they were the kind of BS that sounded plausible to people who didn't know me. And in a city where reputation mattered, BS could be as dangerous as the truth. I learned about the campaign from an unexpected source, Sean Bishop himself. He called my office on a Thursday afternoon, his voice smooth and condescending. Nick, Sean Bishop, I think we should meet. I can't imagine why. Because my girlfriend's friends are spreading stories about you that could reflect poorly on our firm. I'd like to clear the air. Girlfriend. Not Emma, not Ms. Renner, his girlfriend. Like she was a possession he was showing off. What did you have in mind? Drinks tonight. Morton's Bar, 7 o'clock. Morton's was the kind of place where lawyers and bankers went to see and be seen. Expensive whiskey, leather booths, and an atmosphere thick with ambition and testosterone. Exactly the kind of place Sean would choose for a pissing contest. I arrived at 7 sharp, wearing my best suit, which, thanks to Mrs. Wayland's fashion advice and unlimited budget, was now a $3,000 Italian number that made me look like I belonged in boardrooms and country clubs. Sean was already there, holding court at a corner booth with 2 other men I didn't recognize. He stood when he saw me, extending his hand with a politician's smile. Nick!
Good to see you. He was shorter than I'd expected.
Maybe 5'8" in expensive shoes, with the kind of silver fox handsomeness that came from good genetics and better grooming. His handshake was firm but brief, like he was afraid poverty might be contagious. Sean! I slid into the booth across from him. His companions excused themselves, leaving us alone. So, Sean said, signaling the waitress for another round. Congratulations on your good fortune. Emma told me about your inheritance. They also tell you why she left me? His smile didn't waver. She said you two grew apart. It happens. She said I wasn't good enough for her, that I'd never amount to anything more than a delivery driver. Well, that was obviously a miscalculation on her part. Unleashed, I studied his face, looking for cracks in the polished facade. Was it? Or did she just find someone she thought was a better bet? Nick, I'm not here to discuss Emma's motivations. I'm here because your situation has created some complications. What kind of complications? He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Emma works for me now. Her reputation reflects on the firm. These stories about hidden assets and elderly manipulation, they need to stop. I'm not spreading stories, Sean. Your girlfriend's friends are. But you could stop them. A simple statement clarifying the timeline of your inheritance would put this whole thing to rest. I sipped my whiskey, a 20-year-old Macallan that cost more than I used to make in a day. Why would I do that? Because it's the right thing to do. Because Emma doesn't deserve to have her career damaged by gossip and speculation. Her career? I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet bar. Sean, she left me because she thought I was a loser. She moved in with you before our bed was even cold. And now you want me to protect her reputation? His mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. I want you to be reasonable. Emma made a mistake, yes. But she's trying to build a life now. A good life. With you. With me. I set down my glass and leaned back, studying this man who'd stolen my fiancée and was now asking me to clean up the mess. Tell me something, Sean. Did you know about Emma and me when you started your affair? It wasn't an affair. Emma was single when we began our relationship. That's not what I asked. He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the table. Yes, I knew about you. And you pursued her anyway. I heard potential. I saw what she could become with the right guidance. The right guidance. Is that what you call it? All is brilliant, Nick. She was wasted in that little apartment, watching you deliver Chinese food and fix leaky faucets.
I gave her an opportunity to excel.
You gave her an opportunity to trade up. I gave her what she wanted. I felt something cold settle in my chest, a clarity I hadn't experienced since this whole nightmare began. Sean wasn't apologetic or embarrassed about destroying my relationship. He was proud of it. He saw Emma as a prize he'd won, and me as a competitor he'd defeated. You're right, I said finally. You did give her what she wanted. Smiled, thinking he'd won. So you'll make a statement. Clear the air. Oh, I'll clear the air, but not the way you think. His smile faltered. What do you mean? I stood up, dropping a $100 bill on the table. I mean, Emma chose her side, and now she gets to live with the consequences. Both of you do. Nick, don't be stupid. You're a businessman now. You understand how these things work. I'm learning. Left him sitting there, his confidence finally cracking. The real education was just beginning. The next morning, I called Mrs. Wayland and asked for a meeting. I found her in the company's conference room, reviewing architectural plans for a new, affordable housing development. You look troubled, she said without looking up. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Always. You decided to give me this inheritance, this position. Did you know Emma would come back? Did you know she'd try to get half of everything? Mrs. Wayland set down her pen and studied my face. I suspected she might. And you didn't warn me? Would it have changed your decision to accept? I thought about it. No. Then why would I warn you? Nick, Your mother made me promise to help you if you were ever truly alone and struggling. But she also made me promise to test your character. This is a test? Everything is a test. How you handle wealth, how you treat people who've wronged you, how you use power when you have it. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. Your mother was tested too, you know. When she first started working for me, she was young and angry and poor. She'd been abandoned by your father, left to raise you alone with nothing but determination and pride. I never knew my father left her money. He didn't. Your mother earned every penny through intelligence, hard work, and careful investing. But more importantly, she earned it without losing her soul. What does that mean? It means she never let money turn her into someone she didn't recognize. She never used wealth as a tool or a shield. She remained kind, generous, and humble until the day she died. Mrs. Wayland turned back to face me. The question is, what kind of man are you going to be? I knew what she wanted me to say. That I'd be noble and forgiving. That I'd rise above Emma's betrayal and Sean's condescension. That I'd prove myself worthy of my mother's legacy by turning the other cheek.
But I wasn't feeling particularly noble.
Mrs. Wayland, I appreciate everything you've done for me. I respect my mother's memory more than anything in the world. But Emma and Sean don't deserve mercy. They deserve consequences. What kind of consequences? The kind that teach them what it feels like to lose something they value. She quieted for a long moment, her blue eyes searching my face. And if I told you that seeking revenge would disqualify you from this inheritance, then I guess I'd have to decide what's more important, the money or my self-respect. To my surprise, she smiled. That's exactly what your mother would have said. So you're not going to stop me? Nick, I said your mother never used wealth as a tool. I never said she didn't believe in consequences. Mrs. Wayland returned to her seat, picking up her pen. Your mother was kind, but she wasn't weak. She was generous, but she wasn't foolish. And she certainly didn't believe in rewarding people who betrayed the ones they claimed to love. So I have your blessing? You have my curiosity. Show me what you're capable of. That afternoon, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to a private investigator named Marcus Chen, recommended by Robert Hartwell. Marcus specialized in corporate investigations, the kind of detailed background work that revealed financial improprieties, ethical violations, and personal indiscretions. I need to know everything about Sean Bishop and Emma Renner, I told him. Financial records, professional conduct, personal relationships. Everything. That's going to take time and money. I have both. The second call was to the Morrison family's main competitor, a firm called Blackstone and Associates. I'd done my research and learned that they'd been trying to poach talent from Morrison, Bishop and Associates for months. I have some information that might interest you, I told the managing partner, David Blackstone. Information about potential ethical violations at your competitor's firm. What kind of information? The kind that involves senior partners having inappropriate relationships with junior associates. The kind that creates liability issues and public relations nightmares. I'm listening. The third call was to Tessa Morrison herself. Tessa, this is Nick Alvarez. I think we should meet. I have nothing to say to you. That's fine. You can listen while I explain how spreading false rumors about my business relationships could constitute defamation and tortious interference with business relations. There was a long pause. You're threatening to sue me? Offering you a chance to correct the record before I have to take legal action to protect my reputation. What do you want to meet? Your office.
Tomorrow at 2. Merciless, I hung up and leaned back in my chair, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. The thrill of being in control. Emma and Sean had made the mistake of thinking I was still the same broke delivery driver they'd dismissed. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Mrs. Wayland appeared in my doorway, moving with that careful deliberation I'd come to recognize. Second thoughts? She asked. None whatsoever. Because your mother always said the best revenge was living well. But sometimes, she smiled, living well requires making sure the people who wronged you understand exactly what they lost. Marcus Chen delivered his preliminary report on a rainy Tuesday morning. sliding a thick manila envelope across my desk with the satisfaction of a man who'd struck gold. "Your instincts were right," he said, settling into the chair across from me. "Sean Bishop is dirty, and Emma Renner is either complicit or willfully blind." I opened the envelope, scanning pages of financial records, email printouts, and surveillance photos. The picture that emerged was uglier than I'd expected. "Bishop has been skimming client settlement funds," Marcus explained. "Small amounts, nothing that would trigger immediate attention. But it adds up. We're talking about nearly $200,000 over the past 3 years. How is that possible? He handles personal injury cases, slip and falls, car accidents, workplace injuries. When he negotiates settlements, he inflates his legal fees and pockets the difference. The clients never know because they're just happy to get something." I studied a bank statement showing regular deposits into an account under Sean's name. This is enough to disbar him. It gets better. Look at page 12. Page 12 was a hotel receipt from the Marriott downtown, dated 3 weeks before Emma left me. The room was registered to Sean Bishop, but the signature on the credit card receipt was clearly Emma's. "They were having an affair for at least a month before she ended things with you," Marcus said. "Probably longer." I felt a familiar anger building in my chest, but this time it was cold and focused. "What about Emma? Is she involved in the skimming?" "Not directly, but she's been helping him hide assets. Look at page 15. Page 15 showed property records for a condo in Virginia Beach, purchased 6 months ago under Emma's name, but funded entirely by Sean's bank account. He's using her as a front to hide assets from his wife," Marcus explained. "Mrs. Bishop filed for divorce last month, and she's entitled to half of everything. But she can't claim what she can't find. So Emma is helping him commit fraud. Financial fraud, adultery, and professional misconduct. It's like a hat trick of career-ending behavior." I closed the file, my mind racing with possibilities. "Marcus, I need you to do something else for me." "Name it." "I want you to compile all of this into a clean, professional report. Something that could be submitted to the Virginia State Bar, the District Attorney's Office, and Mrs. Bishop's divorce attorney. You want to destroy them. I want to give them the same chance they gave me." That afternoon, I drove to Morrison, Bishop & Associates for my meeting with Tessa Morrison. The law firm occupied 3 floors of a gleaming downtown office building, all marble and mahogany, and the kind of understated wealth that screamed expensive. Tessa met me in the lobby, looking nervous and overdressed in a suit that probably cost more than most people's rent. She was 28, blonde, and possessed of the kind of aggressive confidence that came from never having to worry about money. "Nick," she said, extending a manicured hand, "thank you for coming. Thank you for agreeing to meet." We rode the elevator to the 15th floor in silence, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Tessa's office was smaller than I'd expected, but tastefully appointed, with a view of the city and family photos that screamed connected. "So," she said, settling behind her desk, "you mentioned something about defamation?" I opened my briefcase and removed a folder prepared by Robert Hartwell. "Tessa, for the past 3 weeks, you've been telling people that I manipulated an elderly woman into giving me money. You've suggested that I'm some kind of con artist who preys on vulnerable seniors. I never said. You've also implied that I was hiding assets during my relationship with Emma, which suggests financial fraud on my part." I slid the folder across her desk. "These statements are false, defamatory, and have caused measurable damage to my reputation and business relationships." She opened the folder, scanning the silent. She opened the folder, scanning everything that I month. She opened the folder, scanning the legal documents inside. Her face went pale as she realized how serious this was. "Nick, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. You've been spreading lies about me to protect Emma's reputation and your firm's interests. The question is whether you're going to stop voluntarily or whether I need to file suit and let a jury decide what your lies are worth. You can't sue me for expressing opinions. I can sue you for stating false facts as if they were true. I can sue you for tortious interference with business relations. And I can sue your firm for allowing a junior associate to engage in defamatory conduct on company time. The threat to the firm got her attention. Daddy's law practice was her meal ticket, and she knew it. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. "I want a written retraction. I want you to contact everyone you've spoken to about me and correct the record. And I want you to stay out of my business going forward. And if I do that, then we can all move on with our lives." She was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options. Finally, she reached for her pen. "I'll need a few days to draft something appropriate. You have 24 hours. I left her office feeling satisfied. I hadn't left her office feeling satisfied, but not finished. Tessa was small game, a gossip and a coward, but not truly malicious. Sean and Emma were the real targets, and they required a more sophisticated approach. That evening, I met Dante for dinner at Murphy's Pub, a working-class bar in our old neighborhood. He was waiting in a corner booth, nursing a beer and looking uncomfortable in his delivery uniform. "Man," he said as I sat down, "you look different. Like, really different." "Different how?" "I don't know. Harder, maybe? More focused." I ordered a whiskey and studied my old friend's face. Dante was a good guy, honest, loyal, funny, but he lived in a different world now. A world where $3,000 suits and $12 million inheritances were fantasies, not realities. "I need to ask you something," I said, "and I need you to be straight with me. Shudder. Do you think I'm handling this Emma situation the right way?" He was quiet for a moment, peeling the label off his beer bottle. "You want my honest opinion?" "Always." "I think you're scaring me a little bit." "Scaring you how?" "Nick, you used to be the guy who helped old ladies carry groceries and tipped waitresses 20%, even when you couldn't afford it. Now you're talking about lawsuits and investigations and destroying people's careers. Those people destroyed my life first. Did they? I mean, yeah, Emma was a witch about how she left you. And this Sean guy sounds like a real piece of work. But dude, you won. You got rich, you got successful, you got everything they thought they wanted. Isn't that enough?" I sipped my whiskey, tasting the complexity of aged grain and wondering when I'd developed a palate for expensive alcohol. "Dante, let me ask you something. If someone stole your car and then you found out they were telling people you'd given it to them, would you just let it slide because you could afford a new car? That's not the same thing, isn't it? Emma didn't just leave me. She humiliated me. She made me feel worthless and small and stupid for believing in her. And now, she's spreading lies to protect her reputation, while she tries to take half of everything I inherited. So prove her wrong. Be successful, be happy, find someone better. I am being successful. This is what success looks like." Dante finished his beer and signaled for another. "Okay, but what happens after you destroy them? What happens when Emma and Sean are broke and disgraced and their lives are ruined? Are you going to feel better? Are you going to be happy?" It was a good question, one I'd been avoiding. "I don't know." "That's what scares me, man. You've got everything now, money, power, respect, but you're still angry. You're still hurt, and I'm worried that no amount of revenge is going to fix that." We finished our drinks in relative silence, two old friends separated by more than just money. As I drove home to my new apartment, a penthouse downtown with a view of the river, I thought about what Dante had said. Was he right? Was I letting anger and hurt drive me towards something I'd regret? My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Chen. "Got something interesting. Sean Bishop just moved $50,000 into an offshore account. Want me to keep digging?" I stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the reply button. This was the moment of decision, the point where I could either escalate or walk away. I thought about Emma's face when she'd told me I'd never amount to anything. I thought about Sean's smug confidence when he'd asked me to protect his girlfriend's reputation. I thought about 3 years of sacrifice and love thrown away like garbage. I typed back, "Keep digging. I want everything." Shedding, once bridges once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. But sometimes, that was exactly the point. The confrontation came sooner than I'd expected, triggered by Sean's desperation and Emma's greed. Marcus Chen called me at 6 in the morning, his voice tight with urgency. "They know," he said without preamble. "Someone tipped them off about the investigation." I sat up in bed, instantly alert. "How do you know?" "Because Sean Bishop just transferred another 100,000 to the Cayman Islands, and Emma Renner withdrew her entire savings account. They're preparing to run. Run where? Sean's got a condo in Costa Rica. No extradition treaty for financial crimes. I was already getting dressed, my mind racing through possibilities. How long do we have? Their flight leaves at noon. If they make it out of the country with that money, Mrs. Bishop will never see a dime. And your ex-fiancé will be living on a beach somewhere, laughing about how she screwed you over twice. Not happening. I called Robert Hartwell and explained the situation. Within an hour, he'd obtained an emergency restraining order, freezing both Sean's and Emma's assets. But restraining orders were just paper. They only worked if you could serve them before the subjects disappeared. At 9 a.m., I was sitting in my car outside Emma's apartment building, watching her load suitcases into Sean's Porsche. She looked nervous but excited, like a woman about to start a new adventure with her rich boyfriend's stolen money. My phone rang. Mrs. Wayland. Nick, I just heard from Robert about the restraining order. Are you sure about this? They're stealing money from injured people, Mrs. Wayland. Sean's been skimming settlement funds for years. That's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking if you're sure about who you're becoming. I watched Emma kiss Sean goodbye and climb into the passenger seat. What do you mean? Your mother once told me that the most dangerous moment in a person's life is when they first taste real power. She said it either makes you more of who you already are, or it turns you into someone you don't recognize. One happened to her. She became more generous, more compassionate, more determined to help others. The question is, which one is happening to you? The Porsche pulled away from the curb, heading toward the airport. I started my engine. I guess we're about to find out. I followed them through downtown traffic, staying far enough back to avoid detection but close enough to track their movements. They weren't going to the airport. They were heading toward the harbor, where Sean kept a 30-foot yacht. Smart. Private boat to international waters, then a flight from somewhere without extradition treaties. Sean might be a thief and a cheater, but he wasn't stupid. I called Marcus Chen. They're not flying commercial. Sean's got a boat at Marina Bay. I can have police there in 20 minutes. Do it. Marina was crowded with weekend sailors and fishing enthusiasts, which gave me cover as I followed Sean and Emma toward the private slips. They were moving fast, clearly aware that time was running out. Sean's yacht was a beautiful thing. Sleek white fiberglass with polished chrome fittings, and the kind of understated elegance that screamed money. He was already starting the engine when I approached the dock. Going somewhere? I called out. They both spun around, Emma's face going white when she saw me. Sean recovered faster, his politician's smile sliding into place. Nick, what a surprise. We were just taking the boat out for a quick trip. With 6 suitcases and $100,000 in cash? Emma found her voice. We don't owe you any explanations. Actually, you do. I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo of the restraining order. Both of your assets have been frozen pending investigation into financial fraud and embezzlement. Sean's smile finally cracked. You can't prove anything. Bank records, hotel receipts, property transfers, witness statements. I ticked off the evidence on my fingers. Sean, you've been stealing from your clients for 3 years. Emma, you've been helping him hide assets from his wife. Did you really think no one would notice? You son of a witch, Emma snarled, stepping closer to the dock. You couldn't stand that I found someone better than you. Better? I laughed, the sound harsh in the morning air. Emma, you found a thief and a liar who's about to lose his law license and his freedom. If that's your definition of better, your standards have really improved. At least he's not some pathetic delivery driver who got lucky. Jails. No, he's a pathetic criminal who got caught. Sean grabbed Emma's arm, trying to pull her back toward the boat. We need to go, now. It was too late. Police cars were pulling into the marina parking lot, their sirens cutting through the morning quiet. Sean saw them and his face went gray. This isn't over, he said, pointing at me. You think you've won, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. Actually, I think I do. Placed both Sean and Emma under arrest. Sean for embezzlement and fraud, Emma for conspiracy and money laundering. I watched from the dock as they were led away in handcuffs. Emma screaming about false accusations, and Sean demanding to call his lawyer. Detective Rodriguez approached me as the patrol cars drove away. "Mr. Alvarez, I'm going to need a statement about your role in this investigation." Of course, we spent the next hour going over the evidence Marcus had compiled, the timeline of Sean's thefts, and Emma's involvement in hiding assets. It was straightforward police work. No dramatic revelations or last-minute surprises, just the methodical documentation of financial crimes. "One more question," Detective Rodriguez said as we finished. "What made you suspicious in the first place?" I thought about it, trying to identify the exact moment when suspicion had turned to certainty. "They were too confident," I said finally. "When Emma left me, she was cruel about it. Deliberately, unnecessarily cruel. People who are happy with their choices don't need to destroy the people they're leaving behind." "And that made you think they were criminals?" "It made me think they were hiding something. Turns out I was right." That evening, I sat in my office watching the sunset paint the city gold and red. Mrs. Whalen knocked on my doorframe, moving slowly but steadily. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Tired. Satisfied? I know it's welling me." I said not the world. I said not the world. I struggled at satisfied. Tired? Satisfied? I considered the question. Sean and Emma were facing serious criminal charges. Mrs. Bishop would get her money back. The clients Sean had stolen from would be compensated. Justice, by any reasonable definition, had been served. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." "Your mother would be proud." "Would she? I destroyed 2 people's lives today. You stopped 2 people from destroying other people's lives. There's a difference." Mrs. Whalen settled into the chair across from my desk, her blue eyes reflecting the dying light. "Nick, I want to tell you something about your mother that I've never told anyone else." "What?" "When she first came to work for me, she was escaping a man who had hurt her and taken everything she'd worked for. Your father." First, something cold settled in my stomach. Mom never told me he treated her that way. "She never told you a lot of things. She wanted you to grow up without that anger, without that need for revenge." Mrs. Whalen paused, gathering her thoughts. "But when she found out he was doing the same thing to another woman, a young mother with 2 small children, she didn't stay quiet." "He did she do?" "She gathered evidence. She found witnesses. She made sure he went to prison for what he'd done." Mrs. Whalen smiled, the expression both sad and proud. "Your mother believed in consequences, Nick. She believed that people who hurt others should face justice. So today was justice? Today was you becoming the man she always knew you could be." With a text from Dante. "Saw the news about Emma and Sean. You okay?" Arrested back. "Better than okay. Want to grab dinner tomorrow?" "My treat." "Heck yes. But somewhere with good burgers. None of that fancy crap." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. Some things were worth keeping, and some people were worth fighting for. Emma had taught me which category she belonged in, but Dante had reminded me which category mattered. Mrs. Whalen stood to leave, then paused at the door. "One last thing, Nick. Your mother's will had a final provision that I haven't mentioned." "What kind of provision?" "If you proved yourself worthy of this inheritance, if you showed integrity, intelligence, and compassion, then you were to receive something else." She handed me a sealed envelope, smaller than the first one, but somehow more significant. "What is it?" "Open it." Inside was a single sheet of paper with my mother's handwriting. "Mitt, if you're reading this, it means you've passed the test. Not Mrs. Whalen's test, mine. I needed to know that wealth wouldn't corrupt you, that power wouldn't make you cruel, that success wouldn't make you forget where you came from. The money, the company, the opportunities, those are just tools. What matters is how you use them. Build something good, son. Build something that lasts. Build something that makes the world a little better than you found it. I love you always. Discharged." Ah. Read the letter 3 times, feeling tears I hadn't expected. Outside my window, the city lights were beginning to twinkle in the gathering darkness, each one representing someone's dreams, someone's struggles,
someone's hope for a better tomorrow. Emma and Sean had made their choices. They'd chosen greed over love, status over integrity, easy money over honest work. Now they were facing the consequences of those choices. But I had choices to make too. What to do with this company, this wealth, this opportunity to make a difference. I picked up my phone and called Marcus Chen. Marcus, I want you to start a new investigation. What kind of investigation? I want to know about every affordable housing development in the city that's been abandoned or underfunded. Every community center that's been closed. Every small business that's been pushed out by gentrification. Why? Because I think it's time to build something good. Mrs. Wayland smiled from the doorway, nodding her approval. Welcome to the family business, Mr. Alvarez. 3 months later, I stood in the grand ballroom of the Marriott Hotel, surrounded by city officials, community leaders, and the press. We were announcing the largest affordable housing initiative in the city's history, a $50 million project that would provide homes for 300 families. Emma and Sean had both pled guilty to their respective charges. Sean was serving 2 years in federal prison and had been permanently disbarred. Emma had received probation and community service, but her legal career was over. They'd lost everything they'd thought they wanted. I'd gained everything I'd never known I needed. Dante was there, wearing his first suit and looking uncomfortable but proud. Mrs. Wayland sat in the front row, her blue eyes bright with satisfaction. The mayor was shaking my hand and talking about civic responsibility and community partnership. But the moment that mattered most came when a young mother approached me after the ceremony, holding the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 5. Mr. Alvarez, she said quietly, I just wanted to thank you. We've been on the waiting list for affordable housing for 3 years. This project, it's going to change our lives. I knelt down to the little girl's level. What's your name? Sophia, she whispered. Hi, Sophia. I'm Nick. She smiled, and in that moment, I understood what my mother had been trying to tell me. This was what success looked like. Not the money or the power or the revenge, but the chance to make someone else's life a little better. Emma had been wrong about a lot of things, but she'd been right about one. I had leveled up, just not in the way she'd expected. The law of revenge, I'd learned, wasn't about destroying your enemies. It was about becoming so much better than them that their betrayal became irrelevant. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you got to build something beautiful from the ashes of what they'd tried to burn down.